listening to your sort of introduction, I think, visual hygiene is a bit of an odd word. And I think it's an old kind of phrase that we've had around for decades. Maybe visual ergonomics might be a more appropriate phrase because it really is about, understanding how you're using your body, including your visual system in a potentially an inefficient way. I think I say it time and time again, we've got this wonderful visual system that's designed for us to move through a three-dimensional space. And instead what we do is we sit still looking at two-dimensional objects, screens, books, those sorts of things. And so, we're sort of fighting the natural physiology for us to move when we're doing these kind of more modern things. It's one of those problems that can kind of sneak up on you. It almost becomes that sort of chronic problem where, it's the cumulative time doing things and you're busy, you're concentrating, maybe you're getting a monetary or joyful reward out of the kind of work that you're doing while you're sitting at a screen or reading a book, and you don't notice the negative impacts on what's sort of happening in your visual system and the rest of your body.
So this includes things like lighting, doesn't it? So this is something that I actually worry about with my own kids sometimes when I see them like in dark rooms looking at their digital devices. And so, should I be concerned about that? Is that something that actually could have potential negative repercussions on their vision?
Yeah, look, I mean, the idea is that it could create more strain. I mean, I'd be interested to see some research on a screen that's providing some illumination, what it does to the pupil compared to if you're reading a book. Interesting enough, e-readers are more comfortable to read visually than a backlit sort of LCD screen. So there's something in the contrast. I don't know if it's the lighting, but generally, if you look at, say, the presbyopic population, so people who are celebrating anniversaries of their 39th birthday and starting to have near vision problems, all of them go, oh, I'm fine if I'm reading in good light. And it just goes to show how much difference good lighting can make around the effort of seeing, so that, your brain's it's got much more light energy going in, your pupil's smaller, your depth of focus is greater. So there's so many benefits to having good light simply because it just makes everything more efficient. And so again, not having enough light, not having the room light on, not having sort of bright task lighting means that your focusing system has to work a lot harder, which means that you're opening yourself for more fatigue. And fatigue is one of those things that can kind of creep up over time, and then you can't understand why you're falling asleep while you're doing your work or getting headaches, eye strain, those sorts of things.
And you mentioned presbyopia, so that affects how it affects our ability to focus on near material, doesn't it?
Yeah. So basically, throughout your life, and again, I'll bring out the old faithful model here. The lens inside your eye here, I'll just try and get my fingers out of the way there. This lens actually is a flexible lens, and so the muscle that we see around that contracts, and the lens flexes and changes shape in order to be able to bring our focus in. That lens continues to grow throughout our life, so it gets bigger and it gets harder in the center. And so it's not an issue around the muscles getting weak. It's about that lens not responding to what our muscle wants to, responding to what the muscle's trying to get it to do as we age. So it gets less flexible. And so you become more reliant on trying to get more light in, because at the same time as the lens getting harder, it gets less clear. It's more denser, okay, which is what eventually turns into a cataract. And so, it's a process where our ability to focus at near sort of peaks sometime in our teenage years and then gradually declines. And when we hit sort of late 30s through to late 40s, it starts to impact right where we do everything in that sort of 40 to 60 centimeter kind of mark. And yeah, so it means that we become more conscious of light making a difference in that sort of situation to get through that density and also to make the pupils small.
And so, like, maybe there's something here that you could clear up for me, and that is, so people who are naturally myopic, presbyopia can still affect them. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah. So, if we look at myopia as a growing longer of the eyeball, and the way to look at it is that it is actually a adaptation to allow near work to occur more easily, assuming that you haven't put a spectacle correction on or contact lenses to restore distance vision. So if we imagine wearing a contact lens to correct your distance vision, you're still having to then make the lens change shape in order to focus up close. And so if you're presbyopic and short-sighted, that's when you start to find that you're having to lift up your reading glasses to help use the myopia to act like a sort of inbuilt reading lens. I say to people who are myopic, it's almost like you built your own pair of reading glasses. It's kind of built in. And when you correct your vision with glasses or contact lenses, you're effectively seeing nearly like everyone else. And therefore, you can end up with the same problems of noticing that the lens no longer changes shape very easily. And you have to start getting into multifocal lenses or, like I said, taking glasses on and off.